So let's talk about delves. I absolutely love delves, and it seems like the community as a whole loves the delves. They made it evergreen content, it's been here for 2 expansions, and it looks like it's here to stay. I'd say it's probably a permanent feature going forward and will only get better and expanded upon as time goes by. Now that's not to say that they're perfect. There of course are always going to be complaints about systems, and not everything can be for everyone, so there are some people who are bored of delves, don't like delves, don't enjoy the experience, while other people love it for the exact reasons that they hate it. But I would like to see a little bit more challenge come to delves, and I almost think that we could do something like a Mythic Plus in delves that gives it like an infinite scaling for people who want to push past the regular plus 11s. But there needs to be some sort of reward or incentive for it. There's already very few people who see a point of going to the plus 11s, because you get the same rewards for doing a plus 8 as you do plus 11, except for some crests for upgrading gear, but that's only useful for so long, and a lot of people already skip that by jumping right into raiding Mythic Plus or other things. So how could they improve delves as they are without sacrificing what we already have, but giving more people more options, and should they do that? Personally, I think yes, and I'm going to talk about what I would like to see and how I'd like to see improved, but I cannot stress enough that if they make these changes, the number one thing I want is for the way that it is now, level 1 through 11 is untouched. There should always be an experience for the solo players that allows them to AFK whenever they want to, that gives a chill experience where you can go through things at your own pace, where you can go and learn fights and do things how you want to. So I don't want to subtract from what already exists. I want to build onto what we have with new options for people who want more things. So the most obvious route they could do is what they already do with Mythic Plus, which is that it just infinitely scales up, right? They could have a tier 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Each time you go up, enemies deal more damage. There's more punishment for not doing mechanics, all those sort of things, until you hit an absolute wall where there's just no way forward because you simply can't take the damage, because you simply can't out DPS the mobs. That would work, but I also kind of think that wouldn't be that fun. Like at a certain point, doing a plus 25 on a blood DK, like yeah, I could probably survive it, but each mob would have so much health that would just take an hour to burn them down. Would it work? Yes. Would it be fun? No. And if they did something like that, taking from Mythic Plus, then they could also take other things from Mythic Plus, having things like a timer. I would love a timer for a challenge mode. Again, I can't stress enough, I don't want to add a timer to every delve. I want people to be able to enjoy the delves they already have, but having a timed mode for either a leaderboard, scoreboard, or for a challenge mode, and affixes that could change every day or weekly would definitely make it a much more challenging experience that would give us a little more of what we want if we want to continue pushing delves forward. Now, I do understand that there is a difficulty inherently in that. For example, if they added an affix that does something like every time you're hit, each attack subsequently does more damage, so you have to pull smaller scale mobs. You can't just grab everyone in the entire instance and burn them down. That would definitely hurt some classes, but it would also be a detriment to classes that don't have as much CC or as much options. It may feel impossible in one class and the other. And that's inherently one of the problems with the solo content, right? Is they can't balance it for every single class and spec. They definitely try and do a good job, but delves in the current state that they are, I mean, they're a cakewalk for most specs. You can just absolutely tear down a tier 11 in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if that. While other classes definitely have a little bit more of a struggle, and of course personal skill and all that will also play into it. But what I'm saying is that if they add an affix, they have to somehow balance those affixes against every single spec in the game, because we don't want to create a situation where they say, well, Demonology Warlocks, for example, just can't do tier 15. So if you want to do tier 15, play a different class, play a different spec. That doesn't feel good. We've had situations where Blizzard has said, hey, don't play this spec, we don't intend you to play this spec until next expansion, and that feels awful for people who play that spec. I think another thing they could easily do is implement the praise system into the delve system. The praise system is already flawed, but good, and we could build upon that. Trying to do a delve while the prey is hunting you and you're randomly getting ambushed, while you're struggling with being attacked by the Echoes of Perdition that are taking up your interrupts and other things, I definitely think would add a level of challenge and bring it to a next level, while also implementing a current system that hopefully will also be fixed and evergreened in the future. Now, the part that I know is going to upset some people, especially raiders, because there's this group of people that for some reason feel like if you don't mythic raid, then you don't deserve the best gear in the game. even though I'd argue things like PvP are inherently harder than Mythic raiding, but the gear is still better for Mythic raiding. That's a whole different debate. The point is, if we're going to add affixes, more mechanics, leaderboards, things like that, which I do think that we should add to Delves, again, as an option, then those options need to provide an appropriate reward, and that would be the next tier of gear. Now, there will always be people who will do challenges for the fun of challenges, right? If it just offered an achievement, people would still do it just for the achievement. Maybe not as much, and there'd probably be less participation, but people would inherently do it just to say they did it. But for the most part, if we offered some sort of actual reward like the next tier of gear, even if it was only once a week in your vault, I think that would give people a sense of progression and a reason to go above and beyond. And we know Blizzard wants to do something like this, or at least continue to push it forward. We have the new Mega Delves, or the Labyrinth I think they're called, that was kind of leaked and talked about back in January. We haven't gotten a whole lot of new information since then, but it does seem like they said that we will get separate rewards for it, which means that we might be seeing Mythic gear, or maybe it'll just be cosmetics or housing items, but it does seem like they want to expand the system and add more challenges and more dynamic ways to play, and offer other rewards maybe outside of gear. The only pitfall they need to avoid outside the one that I already mentioned, which is don't change the current base system so that people are brought out of it or forced to play in a way they don't want to, is that inevitably, if there is any sort of better gear or reward that is actually useful at any point of the game outside of Delves, you know you'll have raiders coming in and crying, well, I don't want to do other content, you're forcing me to do other content in order to access parts of the game. That's been a problem since forever, right? Anytime PvP had better rewards, they felt like they were forced to PvP. When Delves and Mythic Plus were offering better rewards, there are people saying, well, I feel forced to do this and I just want to raid. So anytime they add any extra level like that, we do have to be careful that there will be a certain group that will be upset by it. Should that matter? No, but we've seen time and time again where it does seem like they want to keep that particular part of the game and those players happy. So we need to make sure the rewards aren't too good, or at least not good outside of Delves, to prevent that sort of situation. But the idea of logging in on Tuesday after reset and having a new Mega Delve to do that has a leaderboard that, say, the current time is 35 minutes, you have to beat it in 35 minutes or less, and there's 3 new affixes, you have to be worried about exploding bodies and maybe a plague that goes around, or maybe certain mobs need to be CC'd before they become empowered, things like that make it more dynamic, more challenging, and giving us a next level to strive to. That really excites me, and I'd really like to see that. One final wishlist thing for Delves, since they've been so awesome and evergreen, I would love to see them go back and turn a bunch of the old dungeons into Delves. Like, how cool would it be to have evergreen dungeons that you can run and experience as fresher content with actual challenge if you want to experience those old dungeons again? Like, sure, you can experience Wailing Caverns by running through Vanilla WoW, and you can do, like, Dungeon Finder, and you can zoom through it, but you don't get to experience the dungeon, the mobs, the mechanics, and I think there's a gold mine of them. Instead of having to create brand new Delves every single expansion and new content, they could take old content that's not as evergreen and evergreen it through the Delves. I think that would be a really cool system to see. I think it would also help with, I know a lot of people, at least last expansion, had a complaint that a lot of the Delves felt like they were the same. It was just, oh, you're underground. Oh, you're in a cave. Oh, you're underground. We definitely have a difference of Delves here in the new expansion, but having even more options is almost always a good thing. Now, I do want to address, I know there will be people who say, well, MMOs are meant to be social, MMOs are meant to be played with other people, and while I agree with that in the past, that's definitely how MMOs tended to be back when they released, 2004, 2000, 2012, but it's changed. It's evolved. People are playing the MMOs solo more than ever. We see that with housing, people doing solo housing things. We see that with the popularity of Delves, where people just do world content and professions. Like, obviously there is a want, and I dare say even a need, for solo content in MMOs. Just because it's always been group content doesn't mean that's all they need to be pushing for going forward, right? We're evolving the MMO, it's changing. It's very clear that WoW as it is now is way different than it was back in vanilla WoW, and I think that's a good thing. Not to mention, you can do Delves in a group. That is fully an option to group up and do the Delves together. So that option still exists. And as I said, I always want more options. So having the option to do a 5-man Delve that is difficult like a Mythic Plus would just be another great option for people to have. As always, we've reached the point of the video where it's time for me to say thank you for watching and have a blessed day, and ask you to participate. to comment what you think that you would want in delves. Do you want time delves? Do you want mythic track gear from delves? Do you think it's just an absolutely awful idea? Let me know down in the comments down below, and as always, have a blessed day.